Revs, I've got feelings because of social media. I got served up some content that I was like, what's this?
Oh, is that what you flicked me last night?
Yes.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Yeah, I sent it to Revs and I was like,
What the fuck?
look what just got served in my feed. DLs, I got fed a video of a woman in her late 60s, 70s. Late. Emphasis on late. It's fine. We're not ageist here. I was like, oh, cute little lady.
No, we're not ageist, but we're also not late 60s.
Nope, definitely not. Anyway, her content was how to fall safely. And she did demonstrations. So if you fell backwards, it was like a tuck and roll, giving backwards somersault in gymnastics class vibes.
No, it was not giving that vibe. It was giving end of life. Don't die from a shower fall.
But the forwards fall, she's like, you want to fall on your
forearms. I mean, we learned something.
Yeah. Okay. So I went on a roller coaster of emotions. First, I was like, the fuck is this? And then I was like, I'm proud of you. I am proud of you, Boomer, for creating educational content that is being of service to helping others. You know, we're in a season of life where we like save your sanity hacks for mums, and they're doing save your life hacks for grannies. You know? I just didn't understand why it was in my feed, but I did think it was very cute. And then I thought about sending it to my mum, and then I thought she'd be offended.
We can't be saying cute about old people. We cannot infantilize the wise elders of our society.
I must have a weird kink then, because I cannot wait to age and be called cute.
Bullshit.
Can't wait.
You'll hate it.
No,
You'll be like, oh, I'm cute, am I? I've lived double the time you have. I have all the knowledge of the world in my vagina, and I will not be called cute.
I will find it cute. If like I had a granddaughter who's like, yeah, you're cute, I'll be like, oh.
I literally had this discussion with my kids on the weekend because Isla was like, old people are so cute. And I was like, stop. You can't infantilize the wisest of our society.
Have you seen Benjamin Button?
Huh? He's not even old. He's a baby.
The circle of life.
They
are
infantilized. You start in
infantilized.
nappies and you end in nappies.
Yes.
No, I don't like this. No.
But there's truth to it.
Respect the wisdom of the elders.
I think finding someone cute is still being respectful. I would find it flattering.
So if I told you you were cute right now, how would you feel?
Thanks, babe.
Nah, I'm going to chuck this in over the week and see how you respond. If we're in a budget meeting, which we have after this, and I'm like, oh, Jem, there's some really cute maths. How would you find that?
Patronising.
Thank you.
And rude.
Let's start the episode.
All right, fine.
We have 1,000 things to do, but we'd rather chat to you. With emails and meetings and husbands and kids, we don't have time for this. Just what you need, two basic bitches with a podcast.
Hello and welcome to We Don't Have Time for This. I'm your host, Gemma Pranita, aka Gemma Pina on the gram, along with my co-host,
Kate Reeves. A couple of weeks ago, we're going to remind you to check your boobs every month, okay? I want to chuck in another reminder.
Yeah, if you missed that episode, go check it out. We go through the quadrants of the breast, behind the nipple, the armpit. Anyway, it's a process. There's a system. You need to get on this train.
Yeah, check your boobs every month. We will remind you. Also, just call me Siri. I also want to remind you, it's the end of term, okay? We're in school holidays. Worm every term.
And by worm, she means deworm.
Deworm your children.
With chocolate.
Okay, go get the worm, whatever your worm system of choice is. Personally, I like Combantrum chocolate.
What the fuck is that?
Chocolate or tablet. I take the tablet.
Never the tablet, always the chocolate.
Yeah, the kids love the chocolate. Fine, whatever.
See, I'm a kid at heart.
I know.
This is what I've learned.
You're so cute.
Thank you.
Worm your children while they're away from school. Give them a free run of a week where they don't catch anything, you know?
Worm every term.
Worm those gremlins. Now, we have a different kind of episode this week.
I'm excited for this gear shift.
Yeah, on popular demand. A couple of months ago, we were discussing, speaking of cute, how it's not cute to not look after yourself anymore as we're cresting 40. Now, Jem and I, look, we are famously, people treat their bodies like temples. We treat our bodies like
trash.
The tip.
We do. It's a dumpster fire in there.
We don't only seek dopamine in everywhere else in our life, but also in every meal. And it's a problem. And, you know, for me, I notice it in my immunity and my energy levels and my sleep. Jem, where do you notice it? Where does it show up for you?
Definitely sleep.
Yeah.
A sluggishness that I don't enjoy, or just a general feeling of discomfort, like in my bowels. You know?
Her guts.
Her
guts ain't
yeah,
great.
they're not. I walk around life feeling uncomfortably bloated often. You know?
Anyway, we're not fit. And then Jem went on a walk to Mount Kosciuszko, as you do, and was like, oh no. Anyway, we've basically come to a juncture where we're like, come on, about to turn 40. It's time to start taking care of these temples.
Do you know what? There will be some OG DLs who are like, bullshit, guys.
Yeah.
Heard it before.
Yeah.
I know Gem and Revs.
Yeah.
They come around full circle every time. Got to make change. Got to do better, be better.
Yeah, we do it sometimes.
Look, I would say my self-love management has improved somewhat.
My financial literacy is 70% better.
Love that.
No, but we have also got form
Yes.
in upgrading our software in certain areas. I know we are a bit talk is cheap sometimes, but sometimes we do evolve.
Yes.
Okay? This is an area that is pretty essential at this stage of life to evolve in.
I do think there is some poetry in the turning of the page of a decade.
Yes.
And it's making us feel like, okay,
Yep.
this is it now.
Yeah.
And we were honestly inspired by friend of the pod, Rachael Tagg, who has gone through an entire health lifestyle overhaul. And we've been watching it unfold in real time when she was on
Yes.
tour with us last year, but also on socials. Just watching her stories now be converted entirely into Run Club content is new.
Well, I wouldn't say entirely. She's also renovating a house, which I find.
There are so many things. But
We talked about this on the podcast a few weeks ago, and we had an overwhelming amount of messages asking if you guys could hear from the woman herself. As we all know and love, friend of the pod and friend of our hearts, Rachael Tagg. Welcome to the show.
Hi, good morning.
Hello, cutie pie.
I quite like the term cute. I'm here for that. I think as
thank
long as
you.
as long as it's used respectfully, that's the difference.
It's better than like being in my 80s and then being like, look at that crone.
It's not, I don't think it's a binary cute or crone.
No, it's one or the other. You
Yeah.
got to commit which lane.
No, I want to
choose-
be, I actually do like crone. I want to be witchy and wise.
I want to be wise and cute. I reckon that is a beautiful oxymoron.
I will say that does go with your Asian heritage.
Thank you.
You know, like a wise, cute Asian lady. I can see that. But then she's a bit like Yoda, like cute, but then whips out a stick.
Yoda is the perfect personification of the words wise and cute.
Yeah.
I'm a be Yoda.
Great.
I
I
wanna
love that
know-
for you.
I want to know how many cats Revsy's going to have. If she's the old witchy
I
crone
want
down the street.
Cats. No, I'm
Who
not going
needs
to have
the cats?
cats.
She's
Babe,
like
you've
the
started
worst
the
combo.
zoo. You've started the zoo. You've got the dog. Next is a cat or some kind of reptile for Teddy.
No.
You're good.
Reptile? No. By the witch phase, I will not have any animals.
Is anyone going to Meghan Markle themselves and get chickens?
No, I don't want chickens.
Ooh.
And
You'll
bees?
get chickens, Rach.
Oh yeah,
You've got
for sure.
big chick energy.
Mad big chick energy.
I want them eggs. I want the eggs, the protein, babe.
Yeah, the protein. Okay, so let's start at the very beginning, Rach, if you may. Take us back to, you had a bit of a health scare that kicked off this entire journey for you. But first of all, how old are you?
I'm 37, turning 38 this year.
Okay, so you're an
So-
elder millennial like us.
Elder millennial. I'm not quite at that kind of I'm about to turn 40 panic station, but I could feel it creeping up on me. So, it once you kind of go over that 35 crest, it starts to sink away in your brain just a little bit.
It does, doesn't it?
Rach, can you tell us about the before times?
Yeah.
Like
that's a
who
really-
was Rach pre-health scare?
Yeah, look, it was a bit of an evolving beast because I think I always wanted to be a fit and healthy person, but
we all?
I know sometimes you just need that kick up the butt to get you actually doing it properly. And so like pre-kids, I kind of dabbled with exercise a little bit, but never took it seriously. I had my first son, Louis, and I kind of exercised a little bit just to maintain something, but I didn't really know what I was doing. I had no idea about diet or health or anything like that. Just, I guess what social media feeds you. But I think over time, we've all learned that you can't trust everything you see on social media about diet and exercise, and that you need to get proper professional advice. So I guess my caveat to all of this is seek the advice of people who this is their thing. They know what they're doing. And the same goes for exercise trainers, PTs, they all know what they're doing. So I had a PT. I had a gym that I was kind of sometimes going to, but not really. And it kind of felt like a bit of a waste of money. We've all been there. We've all signed up to those challenges and, never really. Yeah.
What was your relationship with exercise? Like hearing you say, had a PT, kind of joined a gym. Did you enjoy it or were you
No.
nonchalant?
No, I really did not enjoy it at all. I did it because I felt like I had to, and that was not really a good starting point. But I guess I just always, you just do it because you just know that at some level you have to do it. And then
When you
it
say have to
kind
do it, do you mean for health and fitness or for body image, how you look kind of stuff?
I think a bit of both, because I just didn't like feeling sluggish, and I knew that I had to have some kind of cardio fitness in my life to, feel a little bit strong, and just those little tasks. Opening a bloody drink bottle sometimes felt hard, and I was like, why is this so difficult? I need more muscles. So as that kind of evolved, I was like, I need to start thinking about this more seriously, but I never did anything about it. And then when I was pregnant with my second son, Henry, I developed perinatal anxiety and depression, and exercise then became a must do for me. But I still resented it. So I didn't do it as frequently as I should have. And then I kind of had that, that cycle of guilt, like I should be exercising more. And then I feel bad because I'm not exercising more. And I kind of wound myself into a bit of a deeper place.
I mean, hands up, who's in that space right now? Me and Revs and every DL who's listening.
Yeah, it's so common. And I think because I felt seen and supported by the people around me, it didn't feel as urgent that I do something about it. So you kind of just wallow in this feeling of, oh, everyone else feels the same, so I'll just keep going and eventually it might get easier. And look, it's not easy when your kids are young. It's really hard.
I was going to say, when you're in the trenches, you have
Yeah.
every reason not to do, and valid, like every valid reason to go, I'm not the priority right now. I have to just deal with what's in front of me, which is this little person.
There are very few kids who like the creche at a gym. There are very few people that have, a really wide support network where they can drop their kids off and go and exercise and come back. So I had to
want to. Like, I don't know about you, but I didn't, like, I remember people saying to me, come to this, there's free childminding at this yoga thing. And I was like, I don't want to drop my 3-month-old with a random chick at a yoga studio. I just don't want to. Like, that's just not, no.
No, no. And for a time, I would have one or both of the boys in a pram, in a double pram, and they'd be tied into the pram, and I'd be training for like half an hour, which was the max I could do at the time. And, it was bare minimum. So I had some relationship with exercise and healthy living, but it wasn't really informed. It wasn't really consistent, and it wasn't something that I could keep doing and see change. And then I just got to a stage where I knew Henry, at this stage, this is my second born, he was about 4 maybe, and I realized that I just wanted to try something different. So I switched to a different gym. This was in April 2023. Literally one opened a kilometre down the road from my house. I had no excuse anymore. They had all the class times that I could make. Like, there was literally no reason why I couldn't go. My husband starts work at 8:30, so I could go early in the morning. And eventually I just went, you know what, I just need to try and start doing this. And this happened all before my health scare. So at that point I was training and I was exercising strength training. That was my main goal. I wanted to get stronger. I wanted to, do all the things that they say to do as you're going into your 40s about strength training and bone density and all that kind of thing. I have a history of osteoarthritis in my family, so I knew that was something I needed to think about. And so I did that for about 6 or 7 months, and I felt myself getting stronger. I was really consistent with my gym training. I wasn't into running at this point. And then one day there were a few times where my trainers were like, "You're never on the cardio side, you're always on the rig side," which in our gym, there's literally, the gym is divided in half, and there's weight training and then there's cardio. And I avoid cardio at all costs. I really, really dislike it. I always used to say that my body was not designed to run. It's like every time I run,
Same.
I
I'm
feel like
holding on to
going
that
die.
narrative, and no one is going to rip that out of my dead hands.
I blame my double Ds. I'm like, I've got double Ds. I can't run.
I blame post-COVID lungs.
No.
I'm making it a thing. It's my narrative, and I'm sticking with it. I get a stitch within nanoseconds of attempting to run.
That's called fitness. It's not your body isn't built to run. That's called you're unfit.
No, I can't. It's debilitating. And there's no releasing the
Who's
stitch.
going to tell her?
No,
I can't work through a stitch. I've tried.
I have seen so many people that defy all of those excuses. And I think once you see the chick with the double D's, size E, whatever, I have small boobs, so I actually don't know what they are past D. But I've seen so many different shapes and sizes of people that have no excuses anymore, because they just find a way through it. They find the right bra, they find the right exercise. Maybe it's not running, maybe it's rowing, maybe it's cycling, it could be anything.
Totally.
But I think the thing is, you figure out what are actual excuses and what are things that, your body actually physically can't do. My knees aren't great, so I had to do a lot of, working around that when it came to running. Anyway, fast forward to, it was between Christmas and New Year's, at the end of 2023. I literally woke up one day. It's that beautiful week in between where pretty much everyone's off work. There's no plans, there's nowhere to be, nothing to do. And I literally woke up one morning and just went, I'm going to try and go for a run. I'm just going to see what happens. And I cannot explain it other than I just got sick of myself making these excuses, and I went, I'm just going to try it. I'm just going to see what happens. No one's around. I'm just going to chuck in. I was listening to Fourth Wing at the moment. That's when I started with my fantasy books. And
You're very smart. Call it what it is, Rachael Tagg.
Hey, it's not really smart. Sometimes the best stuff is. But when it's good. It's good. And I made a rule for myself that I couldn't listen to that book unless I was walking or running. So that was my draw card. And if I wanted to keep going, so it has to be a good book. And now it's a podcast, but it has to be a good book. And I basically just went, I'm just going to go out and see what happens. And I ran 200 meters and I felt like I was going to die. And then eventually I started walking. I was like, oh, my heart kind of back down to normal. I was like, I'll see what happens if I try it again. So I went again. The same thing. I was like, I'm going to die. And then eventually I kind of went, well, I've been doing this now for about 1 kilometer and I haven't died like I thought I was initially going to. So let's try this again tomorrow. I know. Shock horror.
You just want any excuse, right? Like death.
I was going to die. So I went back to the couch.
I died, so I went home.
I think I liked the challenge of seeing how far I could just push my brain a little bit more, because I guess the other side to this story is when I was diagnosed with anxiety and depression, I was put on anti-anxiety medication. And I didn't like how my body felt on it. I, had a number of side effects, and I got to the stage where I said to my GP, can I try and manage this with lifestyle changes instead of the medication for a bit and just see how it goes? And he was like, yep, absolutely. So I guess at that point, the mental battle that goes on in your head when you're trying to exercise and then getting through that is this little dopamine hit that you push yourself. And then all of a sudden you survive at the end of it and you're like, oh, I actually can do it. Like I kept telling myself I couldn't do it. And it is a constant conversation in your head every single time. But that reward of getting to the end of it, going, I got through it and I didn't die like I thought I was going to, is what kept me going and what got me to the next run and then the next run. And after a couple of runs, I found that there wasn't a single one that I regretted. There was not a single time where I said, I wish I didn't go out on that run. And that's when I kind of realized that maybe actually I don't hate it. And maybe actually I could get better, because even after 4 or 5 runs, I found that I was getting a little bit further without having to stop and walk. And then so I started setting challenges for myself, and suddenly it was I could run for a kilometer without walking. I could run for 2 kilometers
Wow.
without walking. And within 2 months, I was able to run 6 kilometers without walking. And I'm not saying it was fast. I think that's the other thing that someone said to me, that when you run a kilometer, no one asks you how fast you went. They don't care if your pace was 5 minutes a kilometer or 8 minutes a kilometer. They're just impressed that you ran a kilometer. And like that feeling alone, once I realized that there's no one shaming my speed, I felt
Except
a
you.
lot better. Yeah, yeah. And it is. You have to get to a point where you just go, I'm going to let that part of it go and just be really proud of myself that I did this. And it's really surprising how many people are actually in this running community that are so excited that you're just out and running. I used to think that I couldn't call myself a runner until I, was able to run a certain distance. And then I found that, in fact, there was this whole cheer squad of people. Every time I told them I went for a run or posted it on Strava, which is like the running community or fitness community like Facebook, but it's just for exercise. And you post a run and there's all these people giving you thumbs up and you're like, oh, it's my little cheer squad.
Dopamine.
It is. And you find the things that give you that reason to keep going and to do it again. And then, it might be that someone goes, oh, you haven't gone for a run this week. Is everything okay? I'm like, yeah, I really hurt my knee last week. And they're like, oh, have you tried this? And, it just opens up these other
Communities.
things. Yeah. Anyway,
Now, Rach,
yes.
are you skirting around it? What's going on? Tell us. Get to
So
the origin story.
the next part after that milestone of reaching that 6 kilometer mark was I was told that when you start running, that it helps with bloating. I had been dealing with, gastrointestinal problems for like a decade, trying to find out what was causing bloat and what was kind of just making me feel heavy and gross all the time, despite, especially from 2023, making all these diet changes.
So you're like,
And
I've upgraded my whole life here. I'm like running. I'm being more mindful. I'm going to the gym, but I still feel shit.
exactly. And I was just at my wit's end, because I thought at this point, I'm running enough. Bloating is supposed to be helped by running, especially. Why do I still feel so gross? I was getting to the end of each day. I wake up in the morning, I feel good. I get to the end of the day and I feel like I'm 5 or 6 months pregnant. Everything just feels heavy and bloated and gross. And I just knew that something wasn't right. So I
Rach,
went
at
to,
this point, had you played around at all with nutrition?
yes, about maybe 5 or 6 years before this, I had gone to see a dietitian and I did the FODMAP challenge, which is basically it's like a 6 or 8 week challenge where you eliminate certain things out of your diet and then you reintroduce them to see if that is what's causing the bloat. So I had done that, and I did know that certain triggers for me were causing some abdominal discomfort, but nothing that was huge, nothing that was kind of the thing. Like I excluded dairy from my diet. I stopped having things like, the dietitians in the community are going to come at me if I pronounce this wrong, but I think it's fructans for me were a huge thing. So like garlic and onions and watermelon, like really rogue random things. So I knew that if I had too much of these things in my diet that I would feel uncomfortable. So I had done all of that and I was still feeling this way. So I went and saw my GP, and at this point I had changed GPs to a lovely female GP who was so, my previous one was great, but this particular GP was really holistic in her approach with all things. She was really supportive of my new kind of fitness regime. And she knew how hard I've been working and how, I guess, my medical literacy is quite high. I'm constantly analysing things and working out what's good for me. And she was like, look, I can see you've done the work. Why don't we send you in for a colonoscopy just to rule out things like celiac and make sure that you are not, there's nothing else going on here. With no other reasoning than that. I have no family history of bowel cancer. I have no real indicators that I might have like ulcerative colitis or Crohn's or anything like that. But she said, let's just rule it out. You've got private health insurance. Let's just send you in and go and see what's going on. And then if all of those things come back clear, we'll do the FODMAP challenge again and we'll start to work out what else it might be. Thinking it might be IBS, it could be all of these different things that can also be linked to anxiety and depression. But we can rule out some really big players first. So that was in February 2024. I went in for my colonoscopy in March 2024. And at the time, obviously, I thought there was not going to be any reason. Nothing was going to come back.
Just looking forward to a great sleep, huh?
Pretty much. Look, I wasn't
do you
looking
go
forward
under?
to the... Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
I
you
didn't
do.
realize you went under.
It's not something that people talk
It's Twilight,
about
I
often.
think. Yeah.
Depending on the gastroenterologist and the anaesthetist and I guess what they have to do, and whether you've had one before and how you react to general anesthetic, there's all these different factors. No one had really spoken about it. And to be honest, I think I thought that the people who got colonoscopies were like my parents' age and,
Yeah,
people in their
50 plus.
55. Yeah, exactly. So I was kind of scared. And also scared about the process because everyone whinges about how horrible it is. And I was like, oh, great. Like, I'm not going to be able to go anywhere for 24 hours beforehand because I'm going to be chained to a toilet. So I literally was freaking out about it, but knew I had to do it. So anyway, did the whole bowel prep thing. It was actually great. I have never felt so cleansed in my life. It got rid of the bloating immediately. And I was like, well, here's a hack, but this is not a solution.
It's not sustainable. You can't have the prep. What's it called?
Is it
Moby
an
prep
enema?
or whatever?
There's Pico Prep. There's a bunch
Oh,
of different options.
You would hate it, Jem.
What is it?
You've got to drink like these
Oh,
drinks and then
no.
you shit yourself for a day
It's
before.
like thick jelly. It's thick liquid jelly, but it has a really,
It's like the glucose test.
Nah, I was just recalling
But
that
more.
in my memory.
But way more.
No,
more,
can't.
like a litre.
Shan't.
Well, you'll have to one day.
I thought
Yeah.
they just
I
went
love that Jem's like, shan't.
I thought,
You absolutely should.
but I thought they, pardon my ignorance, shoved a camera up your
They do, but they
derriere.
can't
do.
have poo in there.
Okay.
Or they
Yeah.
can't see anything.
Could I do
So-
like a because I have done
Here we go.
I have done colonic irrigation. Could I not do that? Same thing?
No, because the camera is the part that finds the that's good for the
This
actually, I
poo
can't
hole
even say that's
princess
good.
wants to have a special way of doing her colonoscopy.
I don't
Let
want
me-
I can't.
Let me convert you, because at the end of the day, we all are going to have to get a colonoscopy at one stage in our life.
Yeah.
My goal now is to educate people about how bad they actually aren't, and how valuable they are, because what ended up happening, I went in for my colonoscopy. It definitely wasn't as bad as I experienced or thought it was going to be. But what happened was you have like an order of surgeries. There was a couple people before me and then a couple people after me. And by the time I came out of my colonoscopy, I thought it was a little bit later than what they told me I was going to come out at. I think they told me I was going to come out at 3 and it was like 4:30. And I thought, this is a bit, something feels a bit off. And then all of a sudden the people that were going in after me were leaving before me. And that kind of set off a few alarm bells. And eventually my surgeon came around and he just had this really, he's a really happy, lovely guy in your face-to-face meeting. And then he had this really somber look on his face. And I'm kind of dozy at this point. And I was like, oh, and it was day surgery. There was no reason for anyone to come in with me because nothing was predicted to go wrong. And he said, look, I'm going to be honest with you. We found a few things, all polyps. And the thing with polyps, when you have a colonoscopy, what happens is you do a bowel cleanse, and they do the cleanse because they need to have a completely clean bowel to be able to see things. Because if there's anything left on the bowel, they won't be able to actually locate the problem things if there are any. So they give you a score with how well you prepared your bowel, which would be right up your alley, Jem. I, I had actually, it came back as 9, and I was like, sorry, why is it 9? Like, why was it not 10? Like, I did that thing to the T. I followed it
Feel this.
exactly as
Feel
I
this.
should. And he was like, no, 9 is the highest. And I went, oh, okay, good, excellent.
Good.
Yeah, yeah. So he said, look, everything, your bowel prep was excellent. Your like everything looks okay, but we did find some things. And polyps are like little mushrooms that grow inside your bowel, and they take a really long time to grow. And essentially what they're looking for when they go through is little polyps. And then as they're going through, they basically just cut them off like little mushrooms around your bowel.
Just a bit of
Um,
hedging in the
just a
bowel.
little, yeah, just a little bit of pruning and weeding. But what happened in my case was there were a couple of smaller ones, and they take years to grow before they become problematic. Basically from, stage 1, I think they call it, it's like 5 years before it then gets to stage 2, and then it's another 5 to 10 years before it gets to stage 3, and then it's another 5 years before it becomes cancerous. And in my case, one of my polyps that they found was looking like it was cancerous. And
Wow.
I was
And you're
shocked.
37.
I was 30, I was 36 at the time. And there is no reason why anyone under the age of 40 or 45 should have a colonoscopy unless you have a family history of bowel cancer. So I was never going to get a colonoscopy if it wasn't for this GP just suggesting it out of the blue. I was not going to get a colonoscopy for at least another, 7 to 10 years, which is
Wow.
terrifying to think about, because if it had have been that long, my story would be very different. So he said, look, we weren't expecting this. And because we weren't expecting it, it took a little bit longer. The way that it had grown, they had to basically cut out, do a resection of my bowel, stitch it all back together. And he
Whoa.
said, I want you to come back in 3 months so that we can go through and check that there's no more, because this particular type of polyp that I had, there's different types, and there's a common one that they're looking for. If you think of them like white cup mushrooms, that's pretty much what most people had, but mine was more like a little portobello, kind of just like sticking to the sides. And he
Hectic.
said, you have a different type, so you have to come back in. And so,
Rach, how
yeah.
are you processing all of this?
Google is how I was processing it, because I knew nothing. I knew no one that had experienced this, that I thought. And so it took me about a week before I felt like I could talk to people. And obviously there was some pathology tests that needed to be done. And
So
that's when
scary.
they send away the what they find, and basically check if there were any, they take some biopsies around the site where they cut it out, and the pathology tests will tell you basically if it was cancer, and if they, then have to do a proper plan. In my case, I was extremely lucky. The gastroenterologist at my follow-up appointment a couple of days later said that I dodged a bullet. That had I waited even months to get this colonoscopy done, it would have been a completely different story. That's how close the cells were to changing.
Far out.
So what I ended up doing, I posted on social media, just basically the bones of my story. And from that one post, I had so many people telling me that they either went through a similar thing, or that they have friends in their 20s and early 30s who went through the same thing. And there is so much now happening in the bowel cancer community, trying to rally people to say, please do not wait until you're 45. If you have access to getting on it, even if it's in the public system, getting on a wait list to get a colonoscopy, just that one colonoscopy can be the difference between you know, living a couple of extra decades or whatever. So that's been my mission, basically. Anyone who will listen, just go and get a colonoscopy. If you can, go and do it.
Out of like, just do it, or
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you have symptoms of any kind.
No,
Because
just do it.
I feel like GPs would be like, well, why? Like they don't want to
Yeah.
send you for tests if you don't have symptoms.
I think if you have any, this is the tricky thing with me. As it turns out, my symptoms had nothing to do with my polyps. They just happened to find them. I actually went in there
Crazy.
with the symptoms, and that's why they were testing for celiac. Celiac came back negative. Turns out I'm not lactose intolerant, which I had been told for nearly 10 years at this point that I was. There's so many things that they can test for while they're in there. It's not just for
I
finding
love
polyps.
that. Like to
Yeah.
get that kind of data.
Yeah.
You know, a definitive ruling out of things I would
Yes.
find really helpful, because my mind has always been like, am I a bit lactosey? Am I a bit celiac? I don't know. Am I gluten intolerant? I don't know. I've never done a FODMAP, but I would love a definitive answer, like ticks and crosses. You're this,
Yes.
you're not that, and move
Yes.
on with my life. That appeals to me. Also, obviously, checking that there's no portobello mushrooms growing, because
Nothing
that's
sinister.
terrifying. But were you, sorry to use this term, but did you shit yourself a little bit when you got this news? Like,
Yeah.
because at the same time, something you haven't shared, what was going on across the seas in the UK in breaking news?
Oh my gosh. So I think I had my surgery on the Thursday, and then I forgot about this, Jem, because I remember messaging you. I woke up on the Saturday morning, and I had had my colonoscopy. I had found out that I had these problematic polyps, which are essentially tumors. They're essentially a type of tumor that grow. Saturday morning, we woke up to the news that Catherine had cancer.
Princess Catherine.
Princess
Middleton.
Catherine, sorry. She's obviously Catherine.
Your
to me.
mate, Catherine.
My mate, Catherine.
Side note, Rach is a huge royalist.
Yep.
Like,
She's a
loves the royals.
Monarch
I-
tragic.
I'm quite fond
She's
of
into
them.
it.
I'm into it. I support them. We're not going to get into the Republican
Let's not.
debate. That's a whole separate issue. But as a standalone group of people, love them, think they're great. So I woke up to that news, and like, as ridiculous as it sounds, all of a sudden I didn't feel alone. And I then started to kind of look at what else is going on with people around this age and what's happening. How common is this? You know, my mind was trying to prepare for the worst but hope for the best, as you do. And I think in my mind, I just kept saying, well, if this is my story, if this is what I've got, I'm just going to prepare myself for that. And if I don't have cancer, I'm very fortunate. But if I
Can
do,
we talk about those
I'm
wait
prepared.
times, like between discovery of something and then waiting on your pathology results? Like, I think that's a sweet maybe that's what hell is. Those days between
Purgatory.
it's like finding out there's something. And I remember my sister waiting. We had a long weekend between her MRI and her appointment with a neuro to find out
her MS.
where she eventually got an MS diagnosis. And I remember the like absolute
Fear.
fear,
Yeah.
white fear, you know,
especially
of
when it
those
drags
days.
on over a long
And then
weekend.
like the whole world is talking about another young woman with cancer. Like, I can't even imagine that scary time, Rach.
It was a really interesting coincidence that kind of happened around the same time. And although we still don't really know what type of cancer Catherine has, but just knowing that, you know, there was someone else kind of going through that. Obviously, there's heaps of people going through similar stories, but something so public that I could kind of briefly align myself to and go, it's okay, like, I'm not alone. The good thing that I had a few friends, I mean, it's not good that I had friends that have experience with cancer, but one of my friends has experienced breast cancer in her 30s. So she was one of the first people I messaged, and I said, I need you to basically just hold my hand through this if it is going to go down this pathway. And she was like, I'm here for you, whatever you need. She was amazing. Friend of the pod, Sarah. Not friend of the pod, but friend of mine.
Friend of your pod.
We're all friends. We're all friends. And I also had my lovely assistant whose husband actually had bowel cancer in his late 20s. And so she was, again, one of the first people I contacted. And I was like, okay, can you walk me through what happened with him? How quickly did he get his results back? And typically what happens with these types of diagnoses are you get the results back fairly quickly if it is cancer, because basically they need to jump into a plan of action straight away.
And then there's more waiting, isn't there? Waiting to see an oncologist, waiting for surgeries, waiting for,
Yeah, it's heavy.
so many steps. And I think the general consensus from everyone is it's just one step at a time. You can't think too far ahead because you never know what pathway your journey is going to go. When Monday came around and I didn't get any news back, I started to get a little glimmer of hope. And then Tuesday morning they called and I was like, fuck, this is not good.
the call.
And they called up and that's when he essentially said, you've dodged a bullet. Like, it was so close. He said the bad news is we have to go back in and look for more, because the type of polyp that was not the type that he was looking for. So 3 months later I went back in and they ended up finding 6 or 7 more of that type of polyp. So
Whoa.
really important, really, really important that you keep going back for these follow-up ones. And basically, as far as that story goes for me, I now have follow-up colonoscopies every 3 years. And that will be until, forever. And that's just precautionary because maybe mine grow a little bit faster than others. And, it's just keep on top of it. But the good thing, the one thing I say to people is that bowel cancer is one of bowel, colorectal cancer, whatever, area of cancer in this particular zone you're looking at, is avoidable because of colonoscopies. So there's not many things that you can scan for like this that you can keep on top of. And I just firmly believe that if we can find a way to make it so that everyone can have a colonoscopy earlier than what the current recommendation is, and apparently that recommendation is not because that's when you're the most at risk, because it turns out millennials especially are being diagnosed with more and more bowel cancer scenarios than what they have been in the past.
Why is that?
Yeah, do they have any
Do
ideas?
we know why? Is it lifestyle? Is it, what is
Environmental something?
It could be a number of things based on, my very limited, uneducated research. But the fact is it's happening, and it's happening at a faster rate. But what is happening in the hospitals is that there's not enough gastroenterologists with the availability to do all of these colonoscopies. So at absolute minimum, if you have any history of bowel cancer, I know even good friends of mine that I have been on them for the past 12 months to say, just go and get it done, because they have a family history of it. They're scared. And if I can just take away that fear from people to say, like, the process is not scary, or not as scary as it seems. And the fact that you could get ahead of it is the biggest possible reason for you to go and get it done.
But I have a history of skin cancer in my family. And I know we remind each other all the time, and we are on each other. We are quite humorless about it. But I know the feeling after my skin check is
The
like,
relief?
you know,
Yes.
I feel so proud of myself, and I feel so good that I've had everything checked.
That should be the driving factor, right?
Yeah, like that you've got to focus more on that rather than the admin or the gross process or the discomfort or the, inconvenience. Like, you're talking about your life. You're talking about your life and your time with your children, really.
And time is so precious. And if it's the difference between, you getting a scan now and you getting a scan in 6 weeks or 6 months, that could be the difference. Like if I had have waited 6 months, my story would have been so different. So
Yeah, crazy.
I just implore anyone who is in this realm to just them first and foremost go get it done. If you have any reason to believe that you have any kind of abdominal discomfort, even if it's ruling out things like ulcerative colitis, Crohn's, like all of these things can be managed. Just do it. It's
I
not
just
as
think,
scary as it
especially
looks.
as women, like these things are so regular, you know, and
Mm,
they're so not taken seriously. Like we think we're supposed to be at like a base level of discomfort all the time, and we
yeah,
blame ourselves, and we're kind of like, oh well, yeah, I'm bloated, and I feel sluggish,
yeah,
and yeah, I'm tired, and you know, I don't like do enough this, or I don't do enough that, or it's you know, like we just
yeah,
internalize and we just think we're supposed to be in pain or just like blah. Like I think we
yeah.
do. Whereas I think men are a bit like they don't, you know, I guess medicine has obviously always been centered around the male body
And
and
mm,
men and what they need. But like it is very slowly changing, but it is that level of advocacy, isn't it, that we sort of have to
yeah.
have for ourselves.
Yeah, even the term IBS, I've learned, is very much an umbrella term for just abdominal discomfort because of a variety of reasons. And often they'll just label you as having IBS without actually then finding out what the cause was, which was, funnily
Oh.
enough, the kind of story that ended up eventuating for me. I went through this whole process with my gastroenterologist, and he was like, "Well, you've got IBS." I was like, "Okay, so what do I do about that?" He's like, "No, no." Basically, he's like, "My job here is done."
Oh,
I
So
was
broad and
like,
generic.
yeah, yeah, yeah. He was like, "There are so many, you could be trying to figure out what causes your IBS for the next 5 years." And I'm like, great.
well, we
Just,
are going to go into how you tackle
yeah.
nutrition head on, but this is the end of our first episode. We're going to keep
Yay.
talking to Rach, which you will be able to hear in your more time feed. But Rach, just to wrap up our Tuesday vibe, we were going to ask
Oh,
you, can you give us a not spawn? Hit us with your not
yay.
spawn.
Oh my goodness, the pressure. The pressure. Oh my
Come on, I
goodness.
don't know
Okay.
anyone who shops like Rachael Tagg.
Oh, oh my gosh. Shopping is my downfall. Shopping is my weakness. But I feel like it's also a strength because, as the girls have learned, I have this knack of being able to see something. This is before Google reverse image search.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's a hack in itself. But I have this knack of being able to see something and then find out where it's from,
Track
even the most
it down.
niches. Like I should be a personal shopper, private investigator, which my accountant husband loves, I'm sure.
Loves.
Um, I have recently discovered the Feather and Noise Noah wide leg pants. I have been
So have
wanting.
we.
Oh my gosh.
They're
I
so comfy.
I really regret taking so long to pull the trigger and buy them. And within the space of a week, I now have two pairs in different colors. I've got the camel with the white stripe, and I've got the red with the white stripe. And my next purchase will be the navy blue with the brown stripe. I'm all over it. And they're so affordable. They're $89.95, and they're stupidly comfortable. They are
Even with an
so
IBS bloat,
flattering.
folks.
Yes, elastic waistband. Oh
Love
my
it.
goodness.
But also
I'm a
the
huge
drape.
convert. Yeah.
I think the drape of the pant is
Mm,
really beautiful. It
mm.
just looks
Yes.
so great on all different shapes. I agree with
Yeah.
you, Rachael Tagg.
Now, full
Have you still got an
disclosure.
active code for us?
I think my code is still active. I'm not sure. I always say worth a shot. Peanut all
Your
capitals 10. Peanut 10. And
can
that'll
confirm
give you
it,
Oh, it's
it
still
does work.
active.
See,
Yep, I
that's the other
used
thing
it
about
last
Rach.
week.
Can stack a code.
Yes, she
Will
can.
never. Will
You
never.
sniff out a bargain like no one else. The amount of times I've asked Rach, oh, where's that from? And it's always designer. And then she backs it up with
From
but
Depop.
got it on Depop.
Yes.
Paid
Yeah,
a tenth of the price.
I do believe in the circular economy. I have never thrown out a piece of clothing. I will always pass it on to someone, sell it, gift it, like whatever. I will never throw something out, but also that's a symptom of having too many clothes that they don't actually get to the point where they're worn out.
So true.
Can't take full credit. One of the DLs popped them in a chat for recommending these particular pants, and they were great with sizing. They were so onto it. They do run a little bit bigger than usual. So if you're in between sizes, size down. Yeah.
Oh, we love
Love
the DLs. They find all the good
They
stuff.
sure do.
Rach, thank you so much for being here with us today.
And as always, DLs will be back in your ears bright and early on Friday with the Bestie Hotline, unless, of course, you want to listen to part 2 of our chat with Rach on more time. We love you.
Love
Bye-bye.
you.